Hello there! For today, we are going to dive into the cellular world. Are you ready to discover its fascinating world? Then let's go! If you look at these two pictures, you will be able to notice the similarities and differences of organelles that are found in both cells. The one on the right is the plant cell, while the one on the left is the animal cell. The organelles that are only present in plant cell are cell wall, chloroplast, and large vacuole. How about the organelles that both cells have? Yes, both of them have a nucleus, mitochondria, cytoplasm, Golgi apparatus, endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes, and plasma membrane. Now let's explore each organelle by looking at their characteristics and functions. First is the cell wall. It's the outermost covering of the plant cell. This organelle is present only in plants. It is predominantly made up of cellulose. The cell wall has a rigid covering that protects the cell, provides structural comfort and support, and gives shape to the cell. Have you ever bitten into a raw vegetable? Or watched rabbits munch on their celery? Isn't it crunchy when bitten into? The reason is because the rigid cells of the cell wall of the raw vegetable are being torn by your teeth. One role of a security guard is being a gatekeeper. He guards the entrance to control the in and out of people in a building. The same goes for plasma membrane of a cell. The plasma membrane is a phospholipid bilayer with embedded proteins that separates the internal contents of the cell from its surrounding environment. It is a semi-permeable membrane that controls the passage of organic molecules, ions, water, and oxygen into and out of the cell. Wastes such as carbon dioxide and ammonia also leave the cell by passing through the plasma membrane. Another organelle that can be found in cell is the endoplasmic reticulum. It is a series of interconnected membranous sacs and tubules within the cytoplasm that collectively modifies proteins and synthesizes lipids. However, these two functions are performed in separate areas of the endoplasmic reticulum: the rough endoplasmic reticulum and the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Endoplasmic reticulum becomes rough due to the ribosomes attached to it. Its function is for protein synthesis. The smooth endoplasmic reticulum is a network of tubular sacs without ribosomes. Its function is the synthesis of carbohydrates, lipids, and steroid hormones. Again, what makes the endoplasmic reticulum rough and smooth? Yes, it's because of the presence and the absence of ribosomes. Ribosome appears either as clusters or single, tiny dots that float freely in the cytoplasm. The function of ribosome is for protein synthesis. Protein synthesis is an essential function of all cells because protein is the most vital macromolecule in the body that supports daily activity of the organism. Ribosomes are particularly abundant in cells that synthesize large amounts of protein. No ribosomes, no protein. The cytoplasm is the entire region of cell between the plasma membrane and the nuclear envelope. It is the fluid portion of the cell, approximately 70% to 80% water, where all organelles appear to be floating. Cytosol is the fluid portion of the cytoplasm. Its functions are to maintain shape to the cell, bear cell organelles, and carry out different metabolic processes such as glycolysis, cell division, protein synthesis, and many more. If cytoplasm isn't present in the cell, there would be no metabolic processes to sustain life. A series of or stacks of flattened membrane-bound organelles form a complex structure called Golgi body or Golgi apparatus. These structures were named after Camillo Golgi, an Italian physician who first identified them. Like a factory, it sorts, tags, packages, and distributes lipids and proteins destined to leave the cell and for use within the cell. A membrane-bounded digestive vesicle called lysosomes can only be found in animal cells. It is known as the suicidal bag of the cell. This is due to the fact that they use their own hydrolytic enzyme to destroy the pathogens that might enter the cell. They also break down old organelles and recycle their component molecules. This makes room for newly formed organelles. Peroxisomes are small round organelles enclosed by a single membrane. They have a single membrane that contains digestive enzymes for breaking down toxic materials in the cell. Peroxisomes hold on to enzymes that require oxygen. Peroxisomes absorb nutrients that the cell has acquired. They are very well known for digesting fatty acids. They also play a part in the way organisms digest alcohol. The similarity between the lysosome and the peroxisome is that they use enzyme for the degradation and breaking down of chemical components. Mitochondria. It is known as the powerhouse of the cell. They are responsible for making adenosine triphosphate or ATP, the cell's main energy-carrying molecule. ATP represents the short-term stored energy of the cell. Mitochondria are oval-shaped, double-membrane organelles that have their own ribosomes and DNA. Like mitochondria, chloroplasts have their own DNA and ribosomes, but the chloroplasts have an entirely different function. Chloroplasts are plant cell organelles that carry out photosynthesis. Chloroplast contains the photosynthetic pigment chlorophyll that gives most plants their green color. Plant cells have specialized membrane-bound structures called vacuoles. The large central vacuole occupies 90% of the volume, as you can see here in the picture. The membrane surrounding the vacuole is called the tonoplast because it contains channels for water that are used to help maintain tonicity or osmotic pressure. It plays a major role in regulating the cell's concentration of water in changing environmental conditions. If you ever forgot to water your plant, it wilts, right? That's because as the water concentration in the soil becomes lower than the water concentration in the plant, water moves out of the central vacuole and cytoplasm. As the central vacuole shrinks, it leaves the cell wall unsupported. This loss of support to the cell walls of plant cells results in the wilted appearance of the plants. The central vacuole also supports the expansion of the cell. When the vacuole holds more water, the cell gets larger without having to invest a lot of energy in synthesizing new cytoplasm. For further emphasis, the central vacuole's major role is to regulate the cell's concentration of water in a changing environment. Just like how the human body shape is maintained by the skeleton, within the cytoplasm, There's a network of protein fibers that helps maintain the shape of the cell, holds some organelles in a specific position, allows cytoplasm and vesicles to move within the cell, and enables cells within multicellular organisms to move. This is known as the cytoskeleton. There are three types of fibers within the cytoskeleton: the microfilaments, intermediate filaments, and microtubules. The microfilament is the narrowest component of cytoskeleton. They function in cellular movement such as contraction, crawling, pinching, functions during cell division, and formation of cellular extension. It also provides rigidity and shape to the cell. They can disassemble and reform quickly, thus enabling the cell to change its shape and move. The microtubule is composed of a protein called tubulin, assembled into a hollow tube. Microtubules help the cell to resist compression, provide a track where vesicles move through the cell, and pull replicated chromosomes to opposite ends of dividing cells. Like microfilaments, microtubules can dissolve and reform quickly. Lastly is the intermediate filaments. It has no role in cell movement because their function is purely structural. They bear tension, thus maintaining the shape of the cells, and secure the nucleus and other organelles in place. The most prominent organelle in the cell is the nucleus. It is surrounded by a nuclear envelope, a double membrane structure that constitutes the outermost portion which separates the nucleus from cytoplasm. Both inner and outer membranes of the nuclear envelope are phospholipid bilayers. This nuclear envelope is scattered with pores called nuclear pores. Nuclear pores control the passage of ions, molecules, proteins, and RNA between the nucleoplasm and cytoplasm. Nucleoplasm is the semi-solid fluid inside the nucleus, where we find the chromatin and the nucleolus. Nucleus is known as the governor of the cell because it controls all the activities of every organ inside the cell and have the genetic material DNA, the blueprint for all living organisms. Nucleus houses the DNA and directs the synthesis of ribosomes and proteins. Also, inside the nucleus is the nucleolus, a region where intensive synthesis of ribosomal RNA takes place. Now we have finished exploring the structure and functions of the cell's part. I hope it's clear to you. That's all. Thank you.